everybody! Today we're gonna dive into a little bit of a difficult topic, but I think it's really important to talk about this, and I'm gonna frame this as an open conversation. I'm gonna show some screenshots, I'm gonna talk about some things that people are saying, I'm gonna use some data, and yeah, I'm gonna give some of my own opinions. Feel free to jump in with your opinion. There's no right or wrong. It's just something that I wanted to talk about for a while. So on my regular channel, I don't really talk about politics or anything like that in Japan, but on my streams, I often do. The reason for that is as a content creator in Japan, I know a lot of other content creators and YouTubers and stuff like that, and Chris Broad also touched on this. If you make any video or content where something is framed as being overly critical of Japan, it normally receives quite a bad reception. Like, people will accuse you of hating Japan if you have any kind of criticism. First of all, I do not hate Japan. I love Japan so much. I've been living here for 11 years. I have minor criticisms, and I think it's okay to talk about those, because if you love something, you wanna maintain it, you wanna make it better, and I think it's important to talk about it. Like, when I lived in England, I had a lot of friends from other countries, and they would tell me about, oh, in my country, like, we have something like this, and I think it'd be really cool if you introduced that into England, and blah blah blah. No point did I ever be like, well, if you like it so much, why don't you go back to your own country? Like, that doesn't register in my mind. I think that we as a society should be open to criticism. And yeah, I think one time I made a post about how Japanese fashion isn't always the best quality for the price, and I had like a nationalist stalk me on Twitter for like years, and any thread with my name in, they would post a bunch of stuff about how I was a Japan hater and stuff like that. That's really unnecessary. Okay, let's not do that. Once again, I love Japan. Okay, this is just we're just talking. That's it. Okay, so this video is going to be about the rise of anti-foreigner, anti-tourism sentiment in Japan. And this isn't just about Japan. Like, has been a rise of fascism, particularly in Europe and of course America, and like all around the world. So this isn't just like, once again, this isn't Japan specific, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I used to work in a conversational school where I would speak to Japanese people, tons of them, on a daily basis. And yeah, as my dad said, wherever you go in the world, people are generally good. Like, if you meet a large amount of people, people are generally good. However, there are gonna be people that don't have the best ideas, and a lot of it is from ignorance, I think. A lot of people don't understand that what they're saying is incredibly wrong, and we're gonna look into some statements in a bit. And we're going to talk about it. And we're not going to attack people, we're not going to do this with hatred, we're just going to look at them and try to educate them and ourselves. Okay, so I never go on Threads, but recently I was on Threads and I saw this post, and this is what prompted me to make the video. So now I'm going to show you two posts from people, because this one is just like a random person, and so I think it's a little bit unfair. However, this kind of sentiment I have seen a lot, and it has been growing recently. So this person said, and I'll read it first. First post, about how cicadas have disappeared from Japanese summers. I'm not the type of person who's critical of foreigners visiting Japan, but for us Japanese, the 4 seasons are deeply important. They're part of our identity. So please don't catch cicadas and don't eat them. This is the first time I felt such intense anger. It's only now in the summer without the sound of cicadas that I realize how much their voices reminded me of summers in my childhood. I can't live alongside people who destroy the scenery of Japan. I feel very critical. I hope people from the same country will spread this message among themselves. Okay, so there's a lot of things about this. First of all, it is now mid-July. I don't normally see cicadas come out till a little bit later. Like, I don't know where this person lives in Japan, because it's different according to where you are. But I've heard a couple of cicadas in my area, but I don't normally hear them yet. So it could be like, I get it, it's hot now and it's summer, but at this time, the cicadas don't normally come out till a little bit later. Also, just claiming that people are eating cicadas is wild. Like, there are a number of reasons there could be a decline in cicadas, and I looked it up. it could be the destruction of habitat because, of course, you know, as society marches on, more buildings are built and more there's deforestation, stuff like that. So that could be a reason. But probably the biggest reason is going to be climate change. And Japanese weather has changed. There's been a lot more storms. It's got hot a lot earlier than before. A lot of things are changing, and that probably is disrupting their ecosystem. But again, are they declining? Like, I don't know, because I posted this on Twitter and people were replying, and a lot of people said where they live they hear tons of cicada all the time. So I don't know, are they declining? I don't know. Is this person just assuming because it's summer and they don't hear them yet? Maybe, I don't know. I think just hearing cicadas and jumping to, oh, it must be the foreigners eating them, is really wild work. Like, I like, that would not be my first thought. If I saw like, oh, recently, and there are a lot of instances where insects are a lot of insects are on the decline, and it largely is because of like deforestation and climate change. My first thought wouldn't be like, someone's fucking eating all of these cicadas. So this part is kind of wild. And this is my problem, I think, is that in any country, when you have this kind of like rise of anti-foreigner sentiment, any little problem, foreigners will be used as a scapegoat. And I'll get into that later. Someone did show me in the thread that there are a couple of signs in parks that said, please don't eat the cicada, or please don't dig them up while they're in their larvae state. I've never seen one of these, but that's interesting. I didn't know that people did that, so like, maybe they do, but like, I think that in order to cause such a large decline, you'd have to eat a lot of cicada, and I think that tourists probably aren't going to eat them because I assume you'd have to cook them first. I think if this is true, it wouldn't be tourists, therefore it would be like residents, and residents make up, I think, about 3% of the Japanese population. And I honestly don't see a lot of people eating cicada. Like, I just don't think, if they are declining, it's my personal opinion, and I'm not, I don't have a PhD in cicada, but I personally don't think that people are eating enough cicada to bring about a decline. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. And then the last part, I feel very critical. I hope people from the same country will spread this message among themselves. Here's the thing, what this normally comes down to, normally when there's anti-foreign, and when I say foreigners, and I get this a lot when I speak to people about this, when people are critical about foreigners in Japan, when you dig a little deeper, you'll find out that they don't mean foreigners, they mean Chinese people. You'll hear this a lot as like a dog whistle, like, oh, well, Chinese people eat anything, or Chinese people probably ate them. I think what this is more than anti-foreigner sentiment is just someone being racist against Chinese people, and that's really, really sad, honestly. Like, I don't think that Chinese people are eating all of the cicadas. Okay, so that was the first statement. That was someone, and like, we don't know who they are, so it could be anyone. So we're not going to jump the gun there and just assume this is a wildly held sentiment, even though I've heard this kind of thing a lot. The next one is from the voice actor of Ayanami Rei, which made me really, really sad because, as you know, I cosplay Ayanami Rei a lot. I love Evangelion, so this honestly broke my heart. So Hayashi Megami is the voice actress, and again, I was a big fan of her, and she made this statement. I will say, before we read it, that she did edit it and cut some parts out, so I think she acknowledged some parts of it weren't great, so maybe let's not attack her at all, like, or don't attack any of these people, but like, let's try to keep an open mind, because I think a lot of this, we're gonna go through it, but I think a lot of it is just ignorance. I'll read it first and we're gonna go through it bit by bit. No rice. In Japan, some international students receive subsidies for free, while Japanese students have to take out student loans, which, to put it plainly, means debt. This is the kind of distorted reality that things are leading to. We can't just leave it up to others, we have to go vote. We're at a point where saying whatever or it won't change just doesn't cut it anymore. If things are going on like this, Japan's unique qualities, our manners, our attitude, our technology, and maybe even anime as a form of free expression, could all be lost. In the midst of all this, there are some people staying at vacation rentals with no manners, foreign tourists who don't understand the idea of yielding, and even people who go as far as to scrape the bamboo in Kyoto. We don't have regulations, and if we don't properly enforce them, things could get bad. It'll be like how Japanese crayfish were instantly devoured by invasive species. For example, the unspoken rule of lining up to buy something can end up disappearing in such a world. I'm not trying to criticize any specific country, but I wonder, if I say that Japan's tax money should go first to the people who actually pay taxes, of course, including foreign residents who pay, to disaster-hit areas in Japan, and to the students supporting Japan right now, would that be called xenophobic? If Japan falls apart internally, we won't even have to be able to offer proper omotenashi, hospitality. Sure, the slush fund scandals are worse and more serious, but still, I just wanted to say, if you have the right to vote from age 18, please take a moment to reconsider how important that right is. Political statements really are difficult to make. Okay, first of all, she makes so many good points in this, but she gets to the wrong conclusion. Like, she makes so many, like, she's almost a socialist queen. I swear to God, she gets so many points where it's like, babe, you are so close. So we're gonna go through it. There's one part that is highlighted that people really didn't like. And first of all, this isn't just like foreigners who were upset with this. A lot of Japanese people were really upset with this too. So we have to acknowledge that, like, a lot of Japanese people don't hold this mindset, okay? Even though I believe it to be on the rise, I would like to hope that most people don't think like this. And I'm not angry at her because, like, I feel a lot of this comes from ignorance, and I'm gonna clear up why. But we're gonna start with the highlighted part. It'll be like how Japanese crayfish were instantly devoured by invasive species. Okay, so that's the part that people criticize the most. You can't equate other races to being invasive species. Like, you can't compare people to being animals or bugs or like shellfish or whatever this is. Like, you just can't do that. Like that, I think in like the racism pyramid or the xenophobic pyramid, that's like pretty much at the top. Like, we shouldn't really be doing that. I think she did edit this part, so I think she realized that this is not okay to say. But we're gonna start off by the very, very interesting topic of rice. The first part, she said, no rice in Japan. Okay, so I'm not sure if you know, but it has been a big problem in Japan where, like, there isn't enough rice. And it's causing the rice prices to get really, really expensive. Me and my coworkers, my Japanese coworkers, we would just complain about this to no end, how expensive onigiri is getting. So, like, that means that more people are opting to eat bread. And just in general, rice is too expensive everywhere. There were a lot of posts on X from random Japanese netizens who complained that it's the foreign tourists who are eating all the rice. If it was like a shortage of fried chicken or beef or bread, maybe I would think that the foreigners are contributing to this, but it is not the foreigners that are eating all the rice. And how I know this is, before this statement came out, I actually watched a really interesting video, and it is called Japanese Recent Price Crisis. I'll link it in the bio below. I think you should watch it. It's very, very interesting. I won't go too much into it, but Japan has started to have to import a lot of rice, even though that rice is produced domestically. There's a lot of reasons contributing to this. Again, climate change is one. I think it was like too wet for some years recently, which means that they couldn't produce as much rice. It was ruining the yield. But also, a lot of it has to do with bureaucracy. And if you watch the video, it explains this a lot. So basically, there's this system called genpon, and it means that Japanese rice farmers, if they're growing rice, they legally have to grow another crop, which is kind of annoying because, like, if you're growing rice, it's like a rice paddy, right? But then if you're growing another crop, you're gonna need, you know, fields or trees or orchids or something like that. So that's already really annoying. There's also a limit to how much of a rice field you can own. So a lot of them are quite small. which means that they can't use a lot of heavy machinery because the space itself is quite small. So there are a lot of legal limitations to Japanese rice farmers. I think it's also like they can't work full-time as a rice farmer. So yeah, a lot of it is bureaucracy. And of course, Japan is also 70% mountainous, so finding space for rice fields is already quite difficult. The reason these laws were put in place is I think that the Japanese government didn't want the economy flooded with rice, and then it would mean that rice would be really, really cheap. So I think they were trying to stabilize the economy, but by doing so, they created a shortage of rice, and then that led to it having to be imported. So a lot of it is just like bureaucracy, and Japan is quite a bureaucratic country, and I come from Europe where we're extremely bureaucratic, so I get it. I think it just takes a lot of time to change those laws, especially when it's to do with something as cultural and integral to society as rice farming, because like rice is like the backbone of Japan, so like it is difficult, and I think a lot of like modern politicians don't want to change those old laws, which means that there's a lack of rice. Over-tourism probably does play a role in it because there are more people coming over, but once again, I don't think that it's foreigners eating all the rice. Once again, with the cicada guy, I think, you know, if there's a problem that arises in society, lack of rice, maybe decline of cicadas, if your first thought is foreigners are doing this, just probably reevaluate. And I think that if you start searching a little bit or going online, you'll probably find that it is not that reason, but maybe multiple reasons. And a lot of it normally does come down to the government. Then she touched on like students, because a lot of international students who come to Japan, they don't pay tuition. Some countries, I think Sweden is one of them, like a lot of Scandinavian countries, possibly even France, their tuition is covered. And that's great, that's wonderful. I don't think it was the same in England. I didn't come here as a student, but I don't think so. So she is annoyed about that, possibly rightfully so, because Japanese students have to take out student loans. It's like she's so close to arriving to the point that Japanese students' loans are expensive and they shouldn't have to take out that many. This is a problem with the government. Like, the government should be finding a way to make it easier for people to study. I think where the lines are crossed here is possibly she thinks that the Japanese government is funding international students, and that's not the case. Like, the funding does come from their own governments overseas. And actually, the Japanese government makes so much money from language schools. There are a lot of Japanese language schools. I know because I have a lot of friends that go to them, and the tuition prices are so expensive. Like, it's insane. It is definitely like a very lucrative business. So I think international students definitely make a lot of money for Japan. But she's so close. Like, yeah, you're right. Maybe Japanese people shouldn't be paying so much money for their tuition. Like, this is definitely, like, this is a good thing. We should be talking about this. Like, you're so, just, you're doing what the government, and like most countries' governments want you to do, is if there's a problem with society, they want you to blame it on foreigners, because then the government doesn't have to do anything, and they don't have to acknowledge any wrongdoing. They can just be like, oh, it's a foreigner's fault. So like, when you're doing that, it's not helping. This part was kind of wild. The part about if things keep going like this, Japan's unique qualities, our manners, our attitude, our technology, and maybe even anime as a form of free expression could all be lost. First of all, tourists that come here, they love anime and Japanese culture. So like, I feel like if anything, that's keeping it going. Particularly overseas, import so many anime goods, so much I don't know, like Japanese snacks, Japanese matcha, stuff like that. So that's contributing to the economy. I actually used to model kimono back in the day, and I modeled for the oldest kimono company in Japan. And I was speaking to one of the kimono dressers. She was extremely old. She was like probably in her late 80s, and I asked her, oh, just out of curiosity, how do you feel about foreigners wearing kimono? She didn't really understand the concept of cultural appropriation. I tried to explain it to her a little bit in Japanese, and then she said that actually, particularly after and during the pandemic, that kimono shop nearly closed down because there wasn't anyone wearing kimono and there was no demand for it. But what kept them alive was people overseas ordering kimono to like display them as art pieces or like for museums and stuff like that, and that's what kept them going. So I don't like this idea that like foreigners are trying to erase Japanese culture. If anything, I think that it's helping to preserve it. I don't like this like, oh, Japanese unique qualities, like she mentioned lining up, manners, attitude. I think a lot of this is exceptionalism. As someone who comes from the UK, we fucking love lining up. We love a good line. We love lining up. Being polite and isn't like one country's trait. I think there are a lot of countries that are famous for being polite, and like generally, as I mentioned before, wherever you go in the world, people are generally polite. Like I think this is very much exceptionalism, and it seems like someone that hasn't traveled a lot. I also don't know how foreign tourists would stop Japanese people being polite. Like, are you saying that like, is it that she's scared that there's going to be so much immigration that there will be less Japanese people? This part I really don't understand. And it's a shame because like Japan does have a big problem right now with like the decline in birth rate and like the aging population. So like Japan is very worried that in the future they could die out, and immigration could really, really help that. But that's another topic for another day, because Jesus Christ. She also mentions, I'm not trying to criticize any specific country. Again, and like this is my own assertion, but I really do think for this she's probably just attacking Chinese people, which makes me really, really sad, honestly. Because that's similar to the last one. That's kind of where they were going with this. She says, if I say that Japan's tax money should first go to the people who actually pay taxes. I like that she included, of course, including foreign residents who pay. Here's the thing. I think it's like a common misconception. There used to be a misinformation campaign going around in Japan where people thought that foreign residents didn't pay taxes, which is wild because I pay taxes out of my ass. I pay so many taxes, it's unreal. And if you speak to any foreign resident here, you'll probably, like, we do pay a lot of tax. I'm really happy that she included foreign residents in this and she made an exception for us. I thought that was really, really nice that she knew about that. However, like, tax money isn't really going to, who does she think that money is going to? Like foreign tourists, because their governments pay their tuition, not Japan. Like, I don't, this part again I really don't get. If you guys know what she means, let me know. But again, she's raising a good point that like tax money could be used better. Like, she's almost getting to the correct point where like I always bring everything back to economics, and as I've mentioned so many times, you guys are sick of me talking about this, but Japanese salaries haven't risen in 35 years. And I've lived in Japan for 11 years and salaries haven't risen. Like, I'm earning about the same amount that I earned when I first arrived in Japan. And yeah, for everyone, it's pretty much about the same. Like, they're not rising. And this is a really big problem because consumption tax has risen twice, I think, in that time. So effectively living standards are dipping, and this is really annoying, and she should talk about this and we should be talking about this. This is very something we need to talk about, but it is not foreign tourists doing this, it's not foreign residents doing this, this is the government. And then she said, sure, the slush fund scandals are worse and more serious, but still. Okay, this all comes back to slush fund scandals. The government, like most countries' governments right now, are funneling all the tax money into their own pockets and not back into society. And this is why most countries right now, people are not happy. Like, economically, people are doing really badly. Like, in most countries now, people cannot become homeowners. Salaries haven't risen, but the standard of living is becoming more expensive in almost every country. So yeah, this is the government's doing this, and that's what we need to talk about. And then once again, as I said before, if you scapegoat foreigners or foreign tourists or immigrants or whatever group of people you want to lay this on, the government is getting away scot-free. Like, this is what they want. She says at the end, if you have the right to vote, please take a moment to reconsider how important that right is. Like, she's not wrong, we should be voting. I mean, I can't vote, but like, if you're Japanese and you live in Japan, you should really think about voting, because In Japan, particularly the younger generations, they don't vote as much because they feel it's kind of futile. I will say, like, for the most part, Japan is a one-party system. Like, it's mostly just Juminto as the main party, so like voting in that respect doesn't, you know, I can understand why people feel like it doesn't help. But in their local governments, there are a lot of really interesting governors and a lot of good things happening. So like, if you can vote and if you're in Japan, look towards more of your local governments. There's a lot of good stuff happening. Okay, then finally, why do we think there is a rise in anti-foreigner sentiment? Okay, there's a few reasons, so we're gonna go over them. I'm just talking, so like, I'm sure that you guys are gonna have a lot of your own ideas, and maybe you're gonna disagree with me, and that's super cool. Just comment. Number one, over tourism. And this is a problem. Like, this is a problem. As someone who's lived here for a long time, it is a problem. Like, if you go to like Harajuku or Kabukicho now, it's full of tourists and it's a little bit overcrowded, and this is really, really annoying. I get it, I understand it. It is annoying, people don't like it. And when you get a large group of people stuffed into one area, there are gonna be things that happen that you don't like. Like, there's gonna be littering, there might be altercations, there might be someone not following cultural norms, stuff like that. Like, unfortunately, that is gonna happen. And of course, there are a lot of annoying tourists. Like, we had Johnny Somali, Logan Paul years ago. Of course, need I explain about that? There was that guy recently playing his speaker in the train. Super, super annoying. There's a lot of annoying tourists, and this really isn't helping. So like, it's annoying for me as a resident. Like, I really wish people wouldn't come here and do this because it makes the rest of us look bad. However, when you have mass tourism and a lot of people in one place, this is gonna happen. And like, the Japanese government did really promote Japan as a tourism destination, and now the tourists are here. It seems like the government didn't really know what to do with them. Like, a lot of the things that are like cultural norms, people just don't understand. Like, I think that the government needs to do a little bit better to support them and support a lot of local businesses that are struggling, maybe. I don't know, like maybe giving everyone a pamphlet on the airplane that says things that you should consider not doing. Helping a lot of places with English support, but I think like particularly in Asakusa, this has been a problem where like a lot of the restaurants are run by quite older generations of people and they don't speak English, and maybe having so many English or foreign speaking tourists is a little bit stressful for them, so maybe look at that. Over tourism is really annoying, but at the same time, like I remember during the pandemic, Harajuku in particular, almost half the stores in Takeshitodori just shut down because there was no tourists. Like, a lot of these places do rely on tourism to keep themselves afloat. Like, I know a lot of Japanese brands who sell in Harajuku, and like a lot of their sales come from tourists. So if you completely took tourism away, they probably wouldn't be able to survive. So that's what I mean by tourism does in some way help preserve Japanese culture. And I think, you know, saying that over-tourism is annoying, that's not inherently racist, because it is annoying. But, like, I think instead of attacking the tourists directly, maybe look at the government, like, how maybe the government should regulate tourism a little bit more. Like, and I've said this a lot, like, I try to make videos, when I do travel, I try to go to, like, a little bit further out, places that maybe people don't necessarily go to, that maybe should, Japan should really promote people going to like Shiga prefecture or like Niigata and places like that, places where tourists don't normally go, because it seems like everyone's going to Kyoto, Osaka, Tokyo, and like these hubs, and there's so much of Japan that's incredibly beautiful and desperate for tourism, because those places are dying because there's not enough tourists, and a lot of ryokan are closing because they're not making any money. So I think that could really help. So like, if you are coming to Japan, I recommend try to go to places that are a little bit not Kyoto. And again, as I touched on this before, the economy is pretty bad right now, and like salaries haven't risen, and I understand how people might get angry when, and I feel this too because I get paid in yen, that people come here with dollars or euro and they can just go buck wild and buy anything they want, and because of the exchange rate. But for us, we can't do that. Like, everything is a little bit expensive for us because the prices have risen, but our salaries haven't. So I understand why people be a little bit annoyed at that, but don't get annoyed at the tourists. Get annoyed at the fact that salaries haven't risen. Like, get annoyed at the corporations. Get annoyed at the government. Not the tourists spending, doing a Don Quixote haul or whatever. I know it's annoying, but maybe a lot of our anger, I think, and the problem with the people who I showed making these statements is a lot of their anger is maybe well founded, but the direction is misplaced. Like, the person who's complaining about the cicadas, if there is a decline, that's probably because of climate change. So we need to think about like the big corporations that are contributing to that. If you're annoyed about Japanese students not being subsidized, we need to really talk about the government doing that. If you think there's over tourism, again, the government needs to be regulating that, or at least helping tourists to come here in a more respectful way. And like, don't get me wrong, a lot of these people who come here and do wild ass shit, they're dickheads, but there's dickheads in every country. So yeah, sorry for this incredibly rambly video. I'm gonna quote the end of what Megami-san said. She said, political statements really are difficult to make. And she's so true about this. It is really hard for me to accurately sum up all my feelings about this in an eloquent way. But I hope that what I tried to say, really, I got my point across. And I want to, again, make it abundantly clear, in no way am I attacking Japan or attacking Japanese people. And I think a lot of the problems that we're seeing in this video are happening in every single country. I just hope if, like, there is something wrong in society, we dig a little bit deeper into why that is, and we don't immediately go and scapegoat one group of society instead of thinking a little bit more, because more often than not, the reasons behind things are because of the governments, the corporations, and the economy. So yeah, once again, let me know what you think and comment down below. I would really want to hear your thoughts about all this. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe. Bye!